Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Game Logic from the Rounding Off Infinity Gaming channel on YouTube and broadcasting now from the E2KG Network podcasting channel on YouTube. Welcome aboard for yet another episode of the Enough to Keep Going Weekly Games podcast. This is episode number 221 for the 9th of December, 2021. This is our deep dive format where, if you're not familiar with the show, up until now, at least I should say, every other week we cover the gaming news and kind of do a deep dive, meaning that we kind of dig into the trends and the things that are reflective around the direction that the industry is going. We, in particular, on this channel, approach games in terms of its elements of design, art, its societal impact, and cultural impact, as well as some industry analysis. So it's a little bit more detailed and deeper from a particular skill perspective than some of the other podcasts that you listen to. Here with me tonight, on rotation and on assignment, I have with me my co-host, Mr. Towmaster99. How you doing, Tow?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much. I forgot to mention that I had my teeth cleaned just a little while ago, so if I sound a little weird, that's why.
Okay.
Or if I start spitting a lot.
Well, at least your eyes were not dilated. That might have been worse for the podcast.
That's
You may
right.
not have been able to read the agenda.
Sure.
Hey, without much further ado, then let's get to it. Tal, the news story at the top of the rundown is one from you. DC Universe Online, the developer of DC Universe Online, is supposedly now making a Marvel MMO.
Yes, the Austin, Texas-based, now Dimensional Ink Studios, used to be Daybreak Game Company. During an investor presentation, they had kind of like, the kind of outline of kind of what they're going to be doing, in the next, well, I guess it doesn't really give you a timeline specifically, but they kind of break it down into like different assets and stuff they're going to do, like marketing and stuff like that, and kind of had a long-term pipeline of indie, live service, and AAA products. So they had a few games on there. Some I've never even heard of, like Block and Load 2, Evil versus Evil. I don't know what that is. A revamp of the Lord of the Rings Online and DC Universe coming in the future, probably either next year or a couple years from now. I think they mentioned in the article that they want to have that Lord of the Rings Online probably around the time the Amazon TV show comes out. And then DC Universe is probably 2023. But they also had a AAA new MMO utilizing the Marvel IP. So that's pretty much all it says. That there's like not too much detail in there, and even in the article, this is from Eurogamer.net. They mentioned that's probably since it's in the long term, we probably won't see it until probably 2023. Maybe potentially 2022, hopefully, or I'm hoping. Because I've always I really enjoyed the DC Universe Online. I was playing with my friend. I mentioned it on our GX show a few times during the summer and kind of early fall. I've kind of slid over from to other things now, but I mean, I was kind of always enjoyed that game, and I'm hoping. I mean, I'm assuming they do something similar. I guess like just kind of have create your own Marvel guy, Marvel hero, and then you see different Marvel characters, like Captain America, Iron Man, just kind of around the world, and you gotta, take assignments or challenges and quests and all that kind of stuff from them. I'm assuming that's what it would be like. I mean, that's kind of their pedigree. A lot of their other games, kind of like the Cryptics Champions Online from Gazillion Entertainment. That was one of the games they had created back in the day. Actually, one of the heads of that, the co-founder of Cryptic Studios, who was working on on this development team now, is working there. So they and I think I remember playing a little bit of Champions back in the day. If I remember, I know there was like a couple of them kind of around the same time. I think we talked about this too. I think I dabbled in one of them for sure. I jumped into, like, I played it for a good amount, and it's pretty much just like DC Universe. So I'm just assuming at some point, they'll do the same thing with Marvel, or hopefully they will. This is all speculation, of course. This is just an investor presentation that they're doing. So I mean, you never know; things could change. So, but I just two things. One, I hadn't realized they changed their name because it was still Daybreak when I was playing it, but now they're Dimensional Ink, and then just that it's going to be a Marvel property. So hopefully I mean, I'd love to see the same kind of thing. I mean, I don't see them doing, like, hey, there's going to be like a million. I mean, there could be, I guess, a million different Iron Man, suits running around and variations of the Hulk. I mean, there's only certain characters, I guess, that you can do that with. But it's probably just like, create your own hero and, jump out into the world. I'm sure there'll be some. They made a pretty good storyline with the DC universe and how, how this came about. So how that story came about. So it was kind of cool. So hopefully they'll do the same here. I don't know, did you ever play DC Universe or any of the other online MMO superhero games that they had created or various people had created back in the day?
I never have. No, the last time I played like a superhero role playing game was it's kind of funny because I was going back listening to our inaugural episode of Enough to Keep Going, and we were talking about RPGs and what is a real RPG and whether or not today's computer RPGs equate to the experience. And so I referenced a lot of pen and paper tabletop gaming, and that was the last time that I played any type of superhero role playing game. So I was a villains and vigilantes guy mainly because back then the Marvel superheroes pen and paper role playing game, one of the issues was exactly kind of what you brought up, which is that there wasn't really natively in that rule set a way for you to roll your own character. It was really designed for you to take on the persona of an existing Marvel character. And the way you got around that and the way you could roll your own character was to basically use the NPC generation rules, which was just always a little janky and just felt like it was an afterthought. And that was my issue and kind of what I tweeted out when this story came out and kind of what I thought about it. And I was like, just like my problem with the Avengers, right? Like, in the Avengers game, I would be completely fine playing Captain America for a 30 to 40 hour experience, just like I do, with Spider-Man and Miles Morales. But I'm not interested in playing a long-term game as a service, continuous, persistent progression model game where I'm occupying the persona of that is already, for which a lot of literature has already been written about, right? I want to, like I do in Destiny 2, kind of roll my own character. So, that's where we are, and I'm hoping, as you mentioned, it is built in that DC Universe online mold, because that's what it would take to interest me. But even then, still, I just don't know that I would be on board because the types of MMOs that I get into, and the types of long form games that I get into are ones that you have to be able to like get in, do a thing, and if you don't play for a month or two, then that has to be okay. And I just don't know that a superhero game would really follow that model. Because I feel like with comic books themselves, I feel like it's really difficult to like partially be into comic books. Like you have to like keep up with the continuity and be reading them all the time for them really to be an entertainment thing like in your schema. And like without having that much space in my life at a time to really do that, I tend not to read them. But when I do, I read 4 to 12 issues like a week. But that's like the only way that I feel like I could stick with it. So I just don't know that a comic book MMO would be something I would stick with.
Yeah, and I forgot there had been like 2 other Marvel basically online games, Marvel Universe Online back in 2006. That was canceled in 2008 by Microsoft. I guess it was just a Microsoft exclusive, I'm assuming, since it said it was canceled by Microsoft. And then there was Gazillion Entertainment's Marvel Heroes, which that one I remember, back in 2013, and that was shut down in 2017. I think the Marvel Heroes, I thought that was like a top-down or isometric view, if I remember correctly. I was going to look it up, and I forgot. But
and I want to say that, and I want to say that one was that thing that I'm concerned about, right? That it was oriented around you occupying, one of the named Marvel heroes.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, we'll have to see. Like I said, it's probably at least a couple of years away still, so we'll have to keep an eye on it. Up next, you have some EA news. It looks like for Battlefield.
We do. This story comes to us by way of GameSpot. EA wants to build a connected Battlefield universe. More experiences on the way. EA is looking to significantly expand the Battlefield franchise. The writer of this article, Mr. Chris Pereira. So, the short of the story goes that EA just did a major restructuring and moved some key leadership positions around, most notably of which Vince Zampella was given oversight of the Battlefield franchise. Now, he was moved into that position as an addition to what he already covers down on at Respawn. So it's not like he was moved from Respawn. He has to do it all, and so he is now helming whatever work they're doing with the Star Wars IP, as far as I understand. And now he is over the Dice Studios conglomerate as well, which includes Dice proper, but also Ripple Effect, which used to be Dice LA, and a third studio that is being stood up by one of the former design leads of the Halo franchise. So, and what they've discussed they want to do in this move with Battlefield 2042 is this article cites a lot of reference to Call of Duty, and that's not really what I think about. I think about it almost more as a Halo or Gears of War approach, because what it sounds like is they want to have multiple Battlefield IP type titles, but those titles may not all be big, massive multiplayer, right, first-person shooter type games. They are going to be specifically the group being headquartered up in, I think, Seattle is where the new studio is being opened. But what they mentioned is that they're going to be building kind of the narrative piece, and so it sounds like they're kind of taking these studios. I think what is maybe similar in the structure of Call of Duty is where it sounds like a studio may be working on things, and they may be the next studio in the queue, so kind of in the way that you have that rotational development battle rhythm of Infinity Ward, Treyarch, and Sledgehammer. It sounds like these studios may be kind of in the same cyclical development cycle, and so that part of it makes sense to me. But from a content perspective, it sounds to me a little bit more like I mentioned, like Halo, where I don't think that they're going down this road as far as genres go, but you could have an RTS, and then you could have a single player campaign, and then you could have like a multiplayer game. So I think each of these studios will be working on something that's a little bit different. It sounds to me, like I said, like the main Dice is going to work on Battlefield proper. Maybe Ripple Effect, I guess, is going to take off on a vector oriented around this portal mode where they have multiple Battlefield properties that could be on the battlefield at the same time, but it sounds like that will be something different. Kind of, again, maybe it is a little bit like Call of Duty, kind of in the way that there's Warzone versus like the annualized Call of Duty installment, and then it sounds like I said, the studio in the Pacific Northwest is going to be working on the narrative stuff, so it sounds like your single player type campaigns will be coming out separately from the Battlefield 2042 series. So it's interesting. It sounds, again, maybe like Call of Duty, but I guess what sprang to my mind was more so it's kind of like, it feels like it's the game version of Marvel's Infinity Saga, right? Where there's this master, Zampella is kind of like this, Joss Whedon, Kevin Feige person who, Russo brothers person who's orchestrating this whole thing of how the properties interrelate to each other and have to mesh in terms of, their frequency of like when they come out, and like each next increment is supposed to kind of bolt on to the master tapestry in some way. I mean, that's neat. I don't know that it's anything that I'm really super excited about. Not saying that I won't play those games, but like it's just, we don't know what it is until we know what it is. What were your thoughts about this new approach from EA?
I get it, like within like it's like a Halo or like Destiny, but I don't know if Battlefield kind of lends itself to that. I mean, even Call of Duty, you have like a loose storyline that kind of runs through all those games too, and people, you have like Price and trying to think of some of the other Ghost and all these other characters that you kind of know of and have come up through the Soap. That was the other one I was trying to think of. that we've seen and have seen even in some of the sequels and reboots, I guess, restarts on some of these games lately. But I guess that's what they kind of will build. I suppose maybe they'll try to build some characters into this universe. I mean, I've never. I think I played. I think I did play the Battlefield 4 campaign, I believe, and finished that. I mean, I was super short, and it was fine. It was just kind of a military, going through, different spots here and there. And I know they've had campaigns in some of the other ones too, and I never played those ones like 1 and 5. And obviously, there's like Battlefield Bad Company, which fans at least were a much beloved game, and that had some characters in it. So maybe they can build off those guys possibly and bring them back. I don't know how those ended off. I think there's 2 of them at least. The Bad Company games.
Yeah, I think there was
So I mean,
two with like a DLC and bolted onto one of them that was kind of like an additional half story or something like that.
oh, okay, yeah. So I mean, I don't know. It's they. I mean, Battlefield for me has always just been multiplayer, kind of Call of Duty too. But I have played probably more Call of Duty campaigns than Battlefield for sure. What was the other one? That was kind of like the cops and robbers one. Hardline, I believe, was the other one. And I know DB played that one a lot. And I think he played through the story for that one too. So I don't know if they can like. It'd be interesting to like have all those of these stories. Kind of, I don't know how you bolt that onto like a big massive,
Well, then, and then
war. But I mean,
and then you do have the war stories approach, right? So you have very incremental, phased stories that take place in different parts of the timeline and different geographical areas in a larger battlefield setting. Which, if they approach it from a modularized narrative, right, schema, like you could do that. You could deliver like these bundles, right? And then if in some ways, if you think about, right, so part of this mix is also Industrial Toys, which is the studio set up by former Bungie president Alex Seropian. And maybe he's adding some ideas into this mix. You could take a Destiny 2 kind of approach, right, where you deliver some bundles of narrative, right, very close on the heels or just before a new larger Battlefield 2042 or Battlefield 3 or 5 kind of multiplayer and large scale battle, or a Bad Company or something like that, right? So you could deliver kind of these little mini campaigns that have some smaller adventures and patrols and things bolted onto them that you could play co-op, right, along with your friends, and then you can go off and take off into the larger multiplayer, large-scale battles that would be oriented kind of around the same setting and timeline as that narrative content.
yeah, larger scale. And you mentioned that Industrial Toys. Now that one, Vincent Pella mentioned that's going to be a mobile game, a Battlefield mobile game. So I mean, I know Call of Duty's done it. I can't see Battlefield mobile. I mean.
No, and what I meant by that is I didn't mean like the mobile thing will be the mobile thing. It'll be Battlefield Candy Crush, and people play it while they're standing in line at the movie theater. Right? I don't think it'll be. But my point is that guy is in that product leadership team, right, and will be offering ideas and maybe part of the mind share that that helps them move in a creative direction that again could render something that's similar to the Destiny 2 approach.
I mean, they could always make it where they kind of integrate the mobile game into like the larger games where you can like control maybe just like a drone or something with your phone. I mean, I know they've done not Battlefield specifically, but other games have tried that in the past. I always thought it was kind of a cool idea, but I mean, it never seemed to like pan out really. So I mean, I don't know. Or I mean, that was just like a thought. I mean, so I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how what comes of this, and I mean, we probably won't see anything in fruition for like once again like probably like another 2 or 3 years. So.
Okay. So the other thing that's interesting in this is, Zampella again is at Respawn, and Respawn is working on more Star Wars content. It will also be very interesting to see how this impacts their use of the Star Wars license, because in this mix could be another Battlefront. This time with Zampella kind of at the head of a larger organization that may render something better than Battlefront 2 and all of the issues that it had getting out of the gate and kind of all the problems that it had then stumbling along even after EA doubled down on it and kind of let the developers do more of what they wanted to do. At the end of the day, I feel like that game was a better game, a year or two after launch, but it had just left enough of a sour taste in gamers' mouths that I don't think it ever got a groundswell of people coming back to it. But you could have a Jedi Fallen Order 2 that also integrated like in some ways narratively with like the setup for the next Battlefront. So that could be interesting. And then if they're taking the shared universe approach, and again you throw that Star Wars IP stuff into the mix, you could also see potentially a return to of an RTS right in that mix as well, because you had Star Wars. I want to say was it Empire at War, which was one of my favorite Star Wars RTSs, and was definitely a better alternative to that Star Wars skin that they overlaid on top of Age of Empires.
Yeah, and they do mention like how these will be experiences, so I mean you don't know what it's going to be. So yeah, it could be anything. That'd be cool. Yeah. What was that one? Galactic Empire? Was that the add-on
Yeah,
they had done?
yeah. It was. I mean, it was a standalone game. It wasn't even an add-on. I don't think you had to have Age of Empires for it to work. You just bought it separately, but it was nothing more than really a Star Wars skin on top of AOE 2. So one of your favorite games made the news this past fortnight as well. So you want to talk to us a little bit about Rocket League?
Yeah, so Rocket League, actually, and I actually talked about this on last week's, a little bit on last week's GX show. Rocket League Sideswipe, which is their mobile game on iOS and Android, had been out kind of like in a, I don't know if you want to call it beta or just kind of a slow rollout earlier in the year for a few countries here and there. But now they've officially announced or released it to everybody. Here in the article, this is 1v1 free-to-play game based on the Rocket League soccer game, but as actually they have a 2-on-2 in there also too. So maybe they didn't know that at the time, but so it's you kind of fixed on a side scroll, not side scrolling, but side view. You kind of just go back and forth on the arena. But it's actually, like I mentioned on the GX show, it's actually pretty fun. I was kind of surprised because I was like, I don't know, it's kind of you're in a smaller little arena. It's only 1-on-1 or 2-on-2, like I just mentioned, and they only have 2 modes right now, which is just the basic Rocket League, soccer game, or they have hoops, which is basketball. Which actually I find the hoops a little bit easier to score on, but it's a pretty fun game though. They're doing this is actually just the beta season right now. They haven't announced officially when that's going to end and like season 1's going to begin. So right now you can go through their battle or Rocket Pass as they call it, not Battle Pass, and unlock stuff. You don't have to buy it or anything. You're just unlocking stuff as you go, and there is coins that you get through the battle pass and just through different challenges that you do. But I don't see a way to buy that, at least not yet. I'm assuming at some point you can buy those in-game currencies just like you can with any other battle pass or Rocket League pass as they call it here. So it's just kind of interesting that I'm assuming it's just kind of like a free taste, this beta phase, and then they'll kind of go full blown, free to play. All right, here's a battle pass stuff, just like in the regular game. You got free stuff that you can get, but then if you pay for it, or if you can, they have a store too. If you buy certain things, you can you either use the in-game money or use real world money to get the in-game money. So I don't know. It's just it's a little weird right now, but it's very, like I said.
Is there any shared progression between like when you set up an account or whatever on the mobile thing? Is it connected to your PC game or Xbox or PlayStation? Is it all the same account?
Yeah, so you do need if you don't have one, you do need to create an Epic Games account since they're owned by Epic now, and it does share not progression, but you can unlock stuff from one game to the other by during challenges, and they have like a certain challenge now you can do that you can unlock a certain kind of goal explosion as they call them.
Do you share do you share currency? So if you like buy, I don't know what they are, rocket coins or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if the coins are no, because in the normal Rocket League game, you don't. You get some coins, but you get a lot more in this one, or at least in the beta phase right now on the mobile side. So I don't think it's shared, at least not right now. And I don't. I guess they can do that. I don't think. I mean, I don't think it would break anything. I mean, if it costs the same, you could probably buy the same amount on either side. But at least for this beta phase, it's not connected for right now. So, but yeah, it's a little weird.
Okay, cool. So, you are playing this, right? Are you playing on iOS or Android?
I'm playing Android right now. I got a Pixel 3 that I still have that I'm using. So and it plays fine. I mean, like I said, you're on a fixed screen, so it's. I mean, the graphics look nice. They're pretty. So I mean, but I mean, otherwise, it's just Rocket League.
Okay,
You can do
and
pretty much the same moves.
can you use it? Can you use a controller with it?
No, I'm just using touchscreen, which is it's fine for this game. I mean, it's not.
But I mean,
Uh,
but do you know is
Although now that you mention it, probably using controller probably be a lot better. And some of the moves I've seen some people do, it seems to be they're probably on a controller than
oh
they're
yeah,
just using a touchscreen. But it plays fine on the touchscreen for me. So sitting there, I could play. I think they start they're like 2.5, 3 minute games or matches.
yeah.
It's just a quick hit.
Yeah, I just if it's controller enabled, I mean that would just be huge, just in terms of like you mentioned, competitive. Like I'm by no means like a great Call of Duty player on PC or console, but when I play Call of Duty Mobile, I use a controller, and I am like the MVP or the guy next to the MVP like every match, and like I don't get it. Like I'm like I shouldn't be that good, right? But whatever, because theoretically when you use a controller in Call of Duty Mobile, you get matched against other people using a controller. So I don't know if it's just like tons of people on their phone. I think what I've speculated is that they may be using a controller, but they're on their phone. And I always play Call of Duty Mobile on a tablet. I don't play on a phone, and
Okay.
that ability to just kind of see the battlefield a lot better when somebody's
Yeah.
looking at a tiny screen just gives me like just a radical competitive advantage in addition to the controller. So I just wonder if you would gain the same using a controller.
Probably because you'd probably have to you'd have the so you kind of float in the air and kind of feather the turbo and you can kind of like float around.
Yeah.
You can angle it anywhere. So probably using a controller would probably be a lot easier
Yeah.
than just a touchscreen.
Do you have a
Touchscreen.
do you have a Chromebook?
I don't know. No.
Yeah, that's the other thing. I mean, there's not really great Android tablets now, except for the ones made by Samsung. But that's another thing that I wonder that if you could play it on a Chromebook, or even cast it to a. I wonder, do you have a Chromecast?
I do. Yeah.
You have a Chrome. You got it from Stadia, right? I wonder if you
Yeah.
could. I wonder if you could cast it from your Pixel to a TV and then play with controller.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. I'll have to try that. Yeah.
Yep.
Test it out.
All right. Well, while you are investigating that hardware hook, let's talk about some new hardware that is being rolled out for the PlayStation 5. Scuf. It sounds like they probably had it for a while because they had to have it while they were working on it. But it seems like it took them quite some time to work. I guess I assume that they are a licensed manufacturer of this PlayStation peripheral, but they are finally rolling out PlayStation 5 controllers, which have a lot of their standard, Scuf brand implementations, including some back buttons on the rear, which apparently is something that is patented by Scuf. So therefore, you don't see that on lots of other controllers. I've mentioned in the past that I have used the back of the controller buttons on a couple of occasions with the Elite Controller 2 for the Xbox, as well as with the Thrustmaster eSwap X Pro. They are great using those back buttons. I don't use them though because I'm like, unless that's your chosen controller that you're going to use all the time, investing in that muscle memory when you're not going to be using it all the time, like I just don't know that there's that much of a point. And as Tao and I have discussed in the past, we tend to rotate all the controllers that we own so that everyone gets a little bit of use and we get our return on investment out of the ridiculous number of controllers that we sometimes use. I've actually been looking at the Razer Wolverine, which up until now I've been like, I don't know that I need any, Xbox controller from Razer, but I recently read up on that controller, and it actually has some features that might make it interesting to use in racing games and shooters. So there may be another controller getting added to the mix. But and I have had an interest in having a Scuf controller, although I've never gotten around to getting one. But they've been putting out their ones for the Series X and S, but they're finally getting around to putting it out on the PlayStation 5. I don't know that it has all of the bells and whistles of the DualSense, but it does have rumble, or the equivalent of rumble, whatever, haptic, I guess now is what they call it. It's got swappable faceplates and thumbsticks. Another reason why I may look at it is that with the Series X controller, you could swap thumbsticks out, but I have not found, even aftermarket, I have not found any tall concave thumbsticks. I have found tall convex thumbsticks. I have found short concave thumbsticks, but I have not found tall concave thumbsticks. But this sounds like it will have all of those variants. It comes out in 3 models. This product lineup is a little weird. There's the Reflex Pro, which starts at $230. Let me back up. So there's the Reflex, your basic model, which is $200. It has, like I said, most of the Scuf features. Then you have the Reflex Pro, which is $230, which is all the things that the baseline Reflex has, as well as a high-performance grip. So it's just a slightly different coating or covering. I don't see anything else that it has other than both the baseline Reflex and the Reflex Pro does have the adaptive triggers and vibration. And I think that may very well have all of the things that the DualSense does. The final model is the Reflex first-person shooter version, which is $260. And amazingly enough, it actually removes features that the Reflex Pro has. It does not have vibration motors, because I guess the theory is, and I'll have to try this myself because I haven't done it, I always have vibration on. But apparently there's a thing about removing turning vibration off for competitive first-person shooters because it actually makes you less accurate and distracting, which I have not tried myself. Is that a thing that you do, Tao?
Yeah, lately I've been turning it off, just like on every game, even on the FPS. I don't know. It kind of annoys me now. I don't know. I just don't like the vibration anymore. I know certain games where, like, yeah, you can use it, like, a lot of Nintendo games do this too, like when you're walking around a world, like if it's a 3D like platform or something, and there's like secret stuff, like you can feel it vibrate and stuff. I was like, I don't like it. I just don't like it anymore. I don't know why.
Interesting. I went through a time where to get controllers to calibrate properly for racing games, I would turn vibration off because that seemed to be a thing that was throwing off the accuracy and the linearity of the steering. In kind of that weird time frame where like Windows 10 was just coming into being, but I moved past that and got to a point where I turned what I still call rumble back on, which I feel like in a racing game you kind of need to help you immerse and feel connected to like how the road surface is changing and how it's impacting your traction. Particularly in games where you go out over cross country, like Forza Horizon, or in a lot of the rally games that I play. And because of that, because I think in that way when it comes to shooters, I just never occurred to me to turn it off. But I will definitely try that now. So that's the lineup: $200 for the base, $230 for the Reflex Pro, and then $260 for the Reflex FPS. I guess what I don't get with the FPS is like if the only thing if the only difference is that it removes the vibration motors, I'm like, why don't you just buy the 230 Pro and turn vibration off? Like, I don't get it. But it also says, this is another weird thing to me, it says triggers and bumpers have kind of hair trigger activation. for faster snaps and faster reactions when shooting in first person shooters. But I'm like, the controllers that I use on the trigger pull, both the series, both the Elite controller Series 2 as well as the Thrustmaster eSwap X Pro, have it where you can change the trigger pull. So when I play shooters, I put it on the shortest throw possible. So, I mean, quite frankly, like when I have it turned on, I often have. In fact, I had to start changing it to where the left trigger for zooming in and sighting in down the iron sights is not a hair trigger, because I was too frequently hitting that inadvertently and snapping in or snapping out when I didn't intend it, and I just have the fire button on hair trigger. But on the Series Elite 2, it has 3 different positions that variations in throw distance that you can put on those triggers, and on the Thrustmaster you can actually calibrate it, so you can set it to wherever along that line of travel you prefer for the trigger pull. So I don't know. I've been interested in Scuf, but it sounds like some shady product alignment in this particular line with the price differentials. Like, I kind of don't get it.
Yeah, they kind of mentioned that too with the highest one was like they take stuff off, but it's more expensive. It's like, what? I don't get it.
Right. Have you ever had a Scuf controller, or do you have a Scuf?
No, I don't have a Scuf controller. The only thing I have is I had the first series Elite Xbox controller. So I mean, kind of same thing. I know they make Xbox controllers also, but I never use the paddles either. I never. It's pretty much the same reason that you mentioned. And then I tried using those the trigger. Like I think there's only 2 positions on the Series 1 Xbox controller, but I had troubles with the shooting and stuff was fine. But if I was like in a vehicle and on certain games, like it just wouldn't go. Like it needed that like full pull for some reason, which I thought was kind of weird. So I kind of would turn that off pretty much all the time. So I kind of never use that anymore, which I don't know. Maybe it was just like a bug, obviously, in the game or in the controller, but it was just kind of weird it would do that.
Yeah, that's interesting. I guess I never encountered that in Call of Duty because I just don't play any of the vehicular modes. But we did. Did I play the Battlefield 2042 beta with you or with DBQ?
You play that with, I think, Swiss, because I was going to come in that one night and I couldn't.
Oh, that's right.
We couldn't get it to go or something. I forgot what the reason was. We all couldn't go in. Oh, I think because the crossplay wasn't in there because you guys are playing on PC.
Right.
And I was on Xbox.
Right. Yeah, so I didn't encounter that because I wasn't using the controller. So that's interesting. Yeah. While we are on the hardware kick, you've got another hardware story talking about the end of Oculus.
Yes, it's gone. No more Oculus because now it's Meta. So just as they had announced back in October when they had changed their name to Meta from Facebook, they're also are going to change Oculus to the Meta Quest instead of the Oculus Quest. So that's actually going to happen early next year. But some of the things, like if you go to the website, some things do say the Meta Quest, and the app's going to change too. It's going to be the Meta app eventually. So it was just, I don't know. I just thought it was. I mean, I get it because they want to kind of align with everything, but I mean, even in the article, like they mentioned how Oculus is like, what Oculus, when someone says Oculus, when they're talking about games, like, okay, that's the VR headset they're talking about. And, but now they're just they're dumping that, which, they're obviously, they want to align themselves, across all the brands. So I guess that makes sense business wise, but I do like the Oculus name, and I wish they would have kept it, but it'll be going away soon enough, sometime next year, early next year. But we'll have to see if that really like affects their revenue, or just like the how many people are buying those headsets now. I mean, I love the Oculus Quest 2. That's what I have, and I mean, I don't know, I probably would have bought it anyways. But I mean, like for special cases, we're going to research that kind of stuff. But people out there, they probably not gonna care too much. They'll just see, oh, hey, it's Meta, or it's Meta Quest. Like, hey, they might maybe say, oh, it's Quest, so is that the same thing as Oculus or something like that? But it'll still be around. So we'll see how that works itself out in the coming years, and if it's going to really make a difference or not. I think I don't know. I think as far as VR, I think most people are, who really want to get into it are like I hate to say it too, like the hardcore gamers. So, they're gonna know what it is. So they'll know the product at least for the most part.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't know that is necessarily the case. Just in terms of the Quest line has always been the kind of incubator VR set because it was a lower cost VR set, and when it originally came out, right, it was non-tethered, right, exclusively, and so it was kind of designed as that VR set for people who didn't want or need the power of the connectivity to the PC. Obviously, with Quest 2, we've kind of moved past that, although it's still not as powerful as the Rift S, um, but but now allows this hybridization of the two modes so that you can use it tethered or untethered. I feel like the thing that's worrisome to me is that, and I've heard some other podcasts express this opinion that this is an okay move because people actually identify more so with Quest as the brand name now than Oculus. Oculus is a term that stems from Carmack and like the original, VR implementation of this, and really was a brand name that was applied at a time when, as you mentioned, only the hardest core people were paying attention to it because it was being displayed at E3, and so you wouldn't really even know about it unless you like kept up with the gaming news like all the time. But since the Quest has come out, I think people who are less invested in the gaming lifestyle became aware of it because it was a way to get into VR without having to own like an uber powerful PC with an RTX card. So my concern is that they've doubled down. I feel like they're doubling down on their feelings of assurance about the Quest brand name, and so it's fine to slap Meta in front of it. My concern is has been since this hybrid model came out, and I haven't seen any progression of the Rift line. I'm like, is Facebook done making a powerful VR set along the lines of the Rift, and are they kind of exiting that space because they feel like the uptake's going to be greater on people having the capability to play untethered, which quite honestly allows them to sell more units. The Quest is a higher selling unit, right, by install base than the Rift because it has no dependencies on any other kind of infrastructure in your gaming space. But
yeah, a fraction of the cost. Yeah.
Yeah, but what that leaves manufacturers who, for some reason, are still invested in producing Windows mixed reality headsets, which I don't know why, since Microsoft isn't really backing them up on that play. I mean, I'm glad they're doing it because again, those things tend to be lower cost than the other two players in the space, which are HTC with their Vive headset and Valve with the Index. Both of those headsets are ridiculously and astronomically priced and are far beyond, right, the get range for anybody who is not like investing in $2,000 or $3,000 PCs, and you really want something that powerful to kind of take advantage of those two kits. So I just worry that without, I mean, the Rift by comparison was even a lower cost set, right, than the Vive. So I worry that there's some competitive players on the field kind of leaving the space that may have an impact on kind of where this industry goes. My problem with VR has always been, as long as it continues to be uber expensive and not gain as much traction along the core PC gamer base, who still largely plays on a GTX series card, right? That it's just never going to have the uptake that it needs to be to become this predominant industry that a lot of media journalists say that it has the potential to become. Any feelings from being a Quest owner and somebody who actually owns hardware? I've got a Rift S also, so I don't think they're going to retroactively slap Meta in front of that thing though. But any personal feelings on them going to the Meta name and
None. I mean, not really, just because I'm just jumping into it now. I mean, I'm fairly new into it, and it's yeah. I mean, to me at least, yeah, I don't have really a problem with them going to meta.
Have you seen any indications? It's been a long time since I've been in the Oculus store, which right, the store did carry the Oculus name because that was unified across whatever headset you had, whether or not you had a Rift S, or Quest. So, have you seen any indications that that's going to be rebranded the Meta store?
Yeah, they are gonna. They'll change that too. They'll change the store and the along with the app too. That you have to download an app. Not yeah, you have to download an app when you're setting up the Quest initially. I don't know if you have to do that for the Rift or not.
You do. I mean, it's all one app, right? So the store front and the configuration is just like a sub menu within like the store front. So it's all one unified app.
Yeah, so they're going to rebrand that to just the Meta eventually too.
Okay.
Which I don't know. I may not have problems with it going to MetaQuest, but I have problems with the meta name just in itself. But that's for another time.
It's becoming overused. Like every tech company now, software company is calling their thing the Meta. So
yeah, everything's going to be a metaverse. Right. I mean, even Fortnite's talked about it and how he wants to create. I forgot the guy's name now. Darn, the lead developer. He wants to create a metaverse within Fortnite, and I just like if you're gonna brand something, just don't brand it what it's gonna what you're trying to do. I mean, that's just me, but
right.
We'll leave it at that.
So let's talk about Sony's plan for a metaverse. They are planning on making PlayStation Plus and PlayStation Now a new meta, which they are working on underneath the codename Spartacus. So this story posted on MCV UK and written by writer Chris Wallace. So Sony, according to Bloomberg, Sony is making preparations to take their service offerings, which now only consist of PlayStation Now and PlayStation Plus. It used to also include PlayStation View, their television service or streaming service, but they're talking about putting these two services together and bundling them as 3 tiers. And so you would have one that is PlayStation Plus as it exists now. The second one would be I often just get radically confused by the business decisions that Sony makes and like why they make them. So the second one would be this to me is I would call this Spartacus Modern, because it gives you PlayStation Plus and then gives you access to the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 games. And then I would then call it, Spartacus Legacy or Spartacus, Ultimate, I guess, which will then add your PlayStation 1, 2, 3, and PSP games. So, now, this article speculates that this is being done in order to compete with Xbox Game Pass, and I've been contending for a very long time. I don't think that's the case, right? The moves that Microsoft and Sony make while being in the gaming space, I feel like are for intrinsically different reasons. And so the moves may be the same or similar, but why they're doing them and how they impact the competitive differences between those two, I think is far different. I think Game Pass is about onboarding new subscribers into the Xbox ecosystem. I think PlayStation Plus, PlayStation Now is about appealing to their historical install base, right? Because I don't know that a brand new PlayStation gamer, right, who's coming off the bench and getting into gaming for the first time, gives a hoot about PlayStation 1, 2, and 3 and PSP games, right? Whereas I feel like a subscriber to Game Pass is concerned about the smorgasbord of games that they'll have available, and that's applicable to the new stuff and the old stuff. I just think that those are two slightly different types of consumers that will be appealed to differently by the two sets of plans. Um, but overall, this tiering schema and the way it's oriented, just to me, like, as a consumer, my general feeling is, and I mentioned this before, like with Killzone or any other product. I'm like, look, if you want to sell me the thing, just sell me the thing. Like, I don't need it bundled 59 different ways to Sunday in ways that don't make any sense, right? And that cause even me like a certain level of confusion. But in particular, in this schema, would cause me to have to really knuckle down and determine the value add per tier and whether or not like I really need it. Um, I don't know, man. What are your thoughts about it?
I guess I'm a little confused with the tier, like the second tier. So it says, it offers the large catalog of PlayStation 4 games, and PlayStation 5 games will be added later down the line. Not, I don't understand what that means, to be honest with you. Like, because obviously PlayStation Plus just on its own is just like, hey, you got online service, obviously, and then you could download games or buy games, which I'm presuming would be PlayStation 5 games. I mean, that's where I'm kind of getting confused
I think
with that second tier.
I think what they're saying is that so PlayStation 4 games exist in the PlayStation Now service today. I think what they're saying is the PlayStation 5 games and PlayStation 5 versions of those games will be added eventually because those
Okay.
PlayStation 5 games have additional specs. Now, they have additional specs that today PlayStation Now can't deliver, right? So I'm left confused, right? The reason to offer a PlayStation 5 game would be to be able to play it at 4K 60 or 4K 120. And I don't know that those things can be delivered. I further don't know if the latency, however minimal it may be, would allow for the implementation that you get when playing the game locally of DualSense, right? Because if the DualSense, if the haptics are even a few milliseconds off, that's just going to feel janky. And I don't know that the lowest common denominator of what you can deliver at a service level will actually allow for that. Like I feel like that would be a thing that would just be surreptitiously turned off. Like it wouldn't even be an option for you to enable. Just like on Stadia, when you play Stadia, most of the graphic options and like a lot of the configuration options that you would normally have available on the PC version, you go to the configuration and settings screen on those games and they're just not even there in the Stadia version. Like they just don't
Hmm.
even give you the option of enabling them. It's like you know your anisotropic filtering or your anti-aliasing. Like you have you're not going to get a choice on that. We're gonna tell you what it is, right? We're gonna set it right at the server level, and you're gonna get whatever it is, right? And you're not even gonna get it. Not only will you not get an option, but you're not even gonna know, right? Unless you can actually tell the difference, like by your eye, between like 2x, 4x, and 8x, anti-aliasing, which I would contend, no human being actually can. But yeah, so the whole thing just seems weird.
Yeah, I mean, and it's the same thing with, I mean, even Microsoft does it. You got that, you still have Gold, and you got Game Pass, and then you got Game Pass PC, and then you got Game Pass Ultimate that kind of combines everything. It's I don't know. It's I suppose it's kind of a good idea just to have multiple tiers because obviously everybody's not going to be able to do like the Ultimate, tier 3 or Ultimate Game Pass if you're talking about Microsoft. But I guess that's probably who it's for. It's for maybe people coming in,
But
not so much for us because we know what we want. We're gonna get it. But
but I,
I don't know.
but I feel like the difference in the Xbox, right? I don't feel like the Xbox bundles are tiers, right? Because the content is the same. It's just stratified on where you want to be able to play it, right? So
Yeah.
you could if you own an Xbox and you don't own a PC and you don't want to do Game Pass, you could just subscribe to Games with Gold, right? If you own a PC and don't own an Xbox, you can subscribe to Game Pass actually either, right? You can subscribe to Game Pass and just have Game Pass games on the Xbox, or you can subscribe to Game Pass games on the PC. And I did this for a while when I
Right.
sold my Xbox One and was not planning on getting a Series S or X, and I dropped my Game Pass subscription down to the PC only version, right? And then you can do Game Pass Ultimate, which gets you games with gold. Because if you're on a PC, you have no need for games with gold because you don't get those games for free on PC.
Right.
But if you do have both an Xbox and a PC, you can get games with gold, Game Pass on Xbox, Game Pass on PC, and most importantly, maybe not most importantly, but a key differentiation in the service, you also then get Xbox Cloud Gaming, right? So with PlayStation, you don't get Xbox, you don't get any equivalent of cloud gaming. You can exercise PlayStation Now, ish, right? That service level on PC, but you can play it on PC or PlayStation. Period. So the difference in this tiering scheme is they are delivering different content. So you always get it on the same platforms. That is not differentiated, and so you can't, right? Which is, if you have a PlayStation but you don't have a PC, there's no differential in price, right? For that, you just pay a flat price. This has you getting different forms of content, which I just don't. The only service today that I can think of that really does that is kind of like Slingbox, right? Where your different bundles of channels can dictate what price you pay. But like for Amazon and in particular when I think about the Netflix model, like the only tiering of the Netflix model is just about like whether you can still get discs or whether or not you can get 4K and whether or not there's like a family plan, right? Which again, I feel like the PlayStation model of sharing is as draconian as it gets, right? It probably is even more draconian than I would even say the Nintendo model is. So, like and, and the other thing that I really don't understand about this from a technical level, and this is kind of what always bothers me, right? Is when like you want to charge different prices for software, that's fine, but when I know something is less lines of code than another thing, then I don't understand why you're charging me more for the thing that has less lines of code, right? Or required fewer developers to develop it, or fewer number of developer hours. Like in this, so I don't understand what's harder about delivering PlayStation 1, 2, and 3 and PlayStation Portable games, right, over, as via streaming than the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 games, right? Which I think I want to say on PlayStation Now, I want to say those legacy games can only be streamed. I don't think they can be installed locally because I don't think the PlayStation 5 hardware has the ability. So is the top tier because you're charging me for bandwidth as a streaming game, or like because the servers aren't more expensive? Like I don't like. This, in a world where you have Amazon pricing, where the price differential is if I order a faster disc or a larger disc, right? There's a cost difference. Like, but here I don't have that trail of evidence. So again, I'm left with yet another Sony decision where there's just an arbitrary price differential and there's no communication as to why and why it would make sense. And in the Jim Ryan era, right, and the same was the case with Sean Layden. Like, I don't know that there will ever be until gamers really, really, really grouse about it for like a year or more, and then finally it'll trickle out somewhere from some gaming journalist like why there's a price difference.
Yeah, and as far as this article, they don't mention any kind of pricing at all. So I mean, we don't even know.
And this is a leak, right? This is investigative reporting where like they got. So I get that.
A report, yeah.
But
yeah.
But I still don't understand it. And the weird thing is, and I don't know, I guess maybe because, I mean, so Xbox started with the PlayStation 2 era, right? So 9, 8, so console generation 7. Right? So Series S, Xbox One, Xbox 360. So console generation 6. So I guess I don't know. I don't know that I have any desire to go back and play my PlayStation 1 library. Like it's just so long ago. How
Yeah,
how are PlayStation Portable games gonna look on a 27-inch 4K screen? Or even a
it's gonna be like a
1440
little square in
PC?
the middle of the TV
Right,
or the middle of the monitor.
right. In some kind of weird like 21:9 aspect rate. Like
Yeah,
I don't know. We'll just have to. I'll just have to wait and see on this one. There's just a ton of this that doesn't make sense. Yeah, and maybe
yeah,
and maybe it's experimentation by Sony, and they will say, hey, nobody's paying the extra money for the PlayStation 1, 2, 3, and PSP games. My concern is that another company would say, so we're just gonna make it 2 tiers and give you the PlayStation 1, 2, 3, and PSP games at the same price. But I feel like what Sony will do is they'll just cancel that tier and you won't have access to any of those games at all, right? Because people aren't paying them the extra money. So I
yeah.
don't know. We'll see how it goes.
And I guess on the streaming side too, like I guess it makes sense that you'd want to stream like 1, 2, 3 and PSP games, just because obviously they're not obviously graphic intensive and all that. But I don't know. They,
Yeah,
can,
yeah.
you can't stream PS5 games, right? At all, that as far as you know.
I don't know if PlayStation 5 games have started showing up on the PlayStation Now service. Again, I'm not a subscriber to PlayStation Now, so I don't have that first-hand
No,
experience.
I wasn't sure if you knew or not.
I don't think they're arriving on that service just yet. But my understanding is that the modern games, the service started off where you could only stream, which was people's big discontent with the service.
Yeah,
But after a year or two, they enabled the capability for you to download the games if you were a PlayStation Now subscriber. So I believe my assumption is that you will be able to either download or stream either of those games. On PC, those games can only be streamed; they can't be installed. But I will also say when they first enabled the service on PC, you can only get those games at 720p. In the last year, they have bumped that up to 1080p, so at least there's that. But that's where I get to the, am I gonna? I don't know. Like, I mean, I don't really understand. Again, I just don't understand the technical details behind the PlayStation 5 game delivery because I don't see that being able to be delivered at 4K 60 or 4K 120 by any means.
yeah,
And I don't know how the DualSense implementation is going to work with the latency.
yeah. I'm interested to see.
Yeah, but I will say, so I said I don't know that I'm interested in going back to my PlayStation 1 games. I will say I did have a PlayStation Portable, and I do have some nostalgic feelings about those games. Like a lot of we've talked a few times about like EA Big. And I played a lot of EA Big games on PSP, and I would love to be able to play those games again. But again, they got to tell me like what that's going to look like, with the screen deltas
Yeah,
between a 2005 PSP size screen or whenever it came out, and a 2021-22 size screen. Um, but again, am I going to pay? It depends on what these price differentials are too. Like if it's a $5 price differential between tiers, okay, maybe not that big a deal, right? But if it's more than that, and again, it's Sony, so I feel like somewhere in here there's going to be more than a $5 bump. Um, I just don't know. To me,
what
yeah, go ahead.
what's PS Plus? Is it 60 a year? Like
I
just
think
same as
I think it's like 65. It's the same as Xbox Live Gold. You know,
okay. And Ultimate Game Pass is what, 15 or
15
16 a month?
$15 a month. So it's definitely
15 a
more
month.
expensive now. But I just feel like you just get a stink ton of value, right,
Yeah,
with Game Pass.
I mean definitely. Yeah. We'll see. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see the prices. That's what I want. That's ultimately what I want to see, just how they price these tiers.
Yeah. Right. Right. And then you're still not gonna. And then the prediction is you're still not gonna have day and date for these games. I mean that's the other thing that So the thing that pushed me to the tip over point on Game Pass, because I did not onboard to Game Pass right away. It didn't make sense for me in my gamer lifestyle until it became available on PC and until and because it was day and date, right? So it gave me the option, even though if a brand new game comes out and it's in my target zone and it's a game that I want to play, I will still pay for it, right? Even though I'm a Game Pass subscriber, but it gives me an option to play that game on release day, and maybe not buy it for 2 months, right, to see if I stick with it or not. But it just gives me that option, right? And like if a holiday game comes out and I've already expended like a bunch on games, it just I don't know that I would do it without day and date. And so without it on PlayStation, I just don't know that I will. I while I am one to not make choices and feel like I have to have all the things and access, I don't need this.
Yeah.
Like I don't think that there's enough space and elasticity and for even my avarice for paying for both Game Pass and PlayStation Spartacus.
Yeah. I mean, I won't get it because I don't have a PlayStation. But
I mean, there's
unless they added like PC games on there, maybe.
Well, I mean,
Like
that's the interesting thing, right? So now that we have these PC ports coming, right? If enough of them get delivered now at the current trickle out pace, I don't know that it's there, but yeah, this gives you an option if you have a PC and want to play Sony first party studio games and you don't want to buy a PlayStation or you can't buy a PlayStation, this now gives you an option, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, even when I got this new PC, I was like, oh, you know what? I can play, Horizon Zero Dawn. I can play God of War eventually when it comes out. I don't know if Ghosts is on PC. I don't think they've said anything about that, but that's another game I'd really like to play. And well, if they ever announce Spider-Man, that'd be nice because I haven't played a Spider-Man game in a long time. But at least those other ones, they're out there on Steam and stuff. I can always buy them, so it's kind of nice.
Yeah, so this would give you an option where there doesn't even have to be a PC port of the game, right? You can stream the PlayStation version of the game to your PC. So that's if it's at the right price, that could definitely provide a viable reason, right, for somebody to onboard.
Yeah.
To the service. And and maybe if those PlayStation 1, 2, and 3 and PSP games even stream to PC, that could be yet another reason, right, for you to add that to your repertoire, depending again, what the price is.
Yeah.
This is just gonna be interesting. Like if the top tier, I mean, what does it look like if the top tier service is more than $15 a month?
Yeah. And then they also mentioned extended demos in there. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what that really means. I mean, it's just you can play like 10 hours instead of only 2 or 3 or something. I don't know.
I mean, it'll be interesting to hear DBQ's thoughts on this because he does have room in his schema, right, for demos. Like I don't like I have services that do like these free weekend, like Stadia does these free weekends and Steam does these free weekends, and I'm like I don't have time to play.
Xbox doesn't.
Yeah, I don't have time to play a game for a weekend. Like right for it to then just go away.
You're just gonna get a sample of it. Yeah.
Right. Like I either want to play the game or not, and I'm either gonna buy it or it's gonna be in my subscription service.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. The most second thing for me is if they add PC stuff on there, that'd be cool. I like it because I mean I had the PlayStation 1 and 2, but I don't unless they put some like old Spider-Man games on there. There's nothing really I want to go back and play on the PlayStation 1 or 2.
Right.
So.
Right. But what I'm saying is, I mean, do you so you can you'll be able to play the games on PC whether there's a PC version of that game or not. I mean, do you find that an appealing reason to subscribe to get access to Sony games? Like you could play Ghost of Tsushima. It doesn't need to be a PC version.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying now. Yeah. If it was that, I definitely would. If it was exclusives, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean,
there's definitely ones I would like to play that obviously I can't. So Returnal looked cool. So
yeah, I mean, you could.
That.
I mean, those will definitely be in there. I mean, and in fact, it should provide the option where, it should be a pick up and drop service, just like everything else is. Just like Swiss, like he'll subscribe to Game Pass for a month, right, and drop it. Like you should be able to say, hey, I'm gonna play Ghost of Tsushima this month, pay for a month of the service, right? Play Ghost of Tsushima and then drop the service, right, if you want to, and
Yeah.
then 3 months down the road, if you decide you want to play Days Gone, right, you should be able to onboard, right, and
Yeah.
play that. And if you do that 4 times, if you pay for 4 months of the service throughout a year, it's $60. It's the price of one game, but yet you've gotten access to 4 games, right? Let's assume that it takes you a month of time to like fit a game into your gameplay schedule. You
Yeah.
know, so I don't know. There are some viable options in here. It just the thing with these streaming services, and I mean, I'm hoping that eventually we'll start seeing enough data that tells us, right? As high a value as I think Game Pass is, I haven't been convinced that Game Pass has achieved the outreach to where somebody who is not in the Xbox ecosystem by hardware pays for Game Pass, right? Now, I have heard and I have seen where there are PlayStation people who will say, "I don't want an Xbox, but I do want a taste of Halo Infinite," right? And they'll pay for Game Pass, right? In order to have that experience. Sometimes that's just so they can talk crap about the game not being as good as a PlayStation game, but at least, right, it's a thing, right? And I definitely have a feeling that outside of the U.S., right, there is uptake on the Game Pass service when they can get it delivered by bandwidth rather than going out and buying the hardware set because because cell phones are even more prevalent there than they are in the U.S. And with the touchscreen controls, that gives them a way to play it. But still, again, I just haven't become convinced of Game Pass extending very far beyond somebody who doesn't have some form of Xbox. And I've even seen where somebody who has like an Xbox One who goes, I haven't been convinced that I need a Series S or an X, but I'll get Game Pass so I can still play all the new games that are coming out. So the tail of the tape with PlayStation is kind of the same way, right? What's the appeal of PlayStation Spartacus beyond somebody who already has a PlayStation 4 or a PlayStation 5?
Yeah.
And that I don't know. All right, man. Anything else that we need to go over?
Nope. That's all I had for tonight.
Okay.
Kind of light this last couple weeks.
It has been. You're right. But remember, in years past, we have always come down to these end of the year shows, and we have always said, "Wow, we assumed that things were going to be light from a news perspective this year." And there's always like
Yeah.
Blizzard blew up about like I forget what the story. Yeah, whatever. Like there's always something. There's always more going on at this time of year, and we're just like, look, we just wish people would settle down and like just put their holiday games out and let us play them.
Yeah.
We don't need them making news right now. Like hold off on any like big scandals until late January of the following year. But they always keep it going. But this year it has settled down. I'm sure there'll be some scrapple
Well,
about the VGAs after this.
yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, there's a lot of announcements coming out of there. So
Right. Right. So for the Picks Plays assignment, which is going to roll us into 2022, actually, what's going on is the following. We're living in a shooter renaissance. Halo Infinite, at the time that we wrote this assignment, will be out shortly. It's actually out now. And with games like Deathloop, Returnal, and others in the mix, there are plenty of opportunities to play PvE or PvP. So go out and play a shooter, campaign or otherwise, Halo or otherwise, and report back. So far, DBQ Hams has indicated that he's going to be playing Gunfire Reborn on PC. I am going to be playing Dusk on PC and then Metro 2033 on PC. I played Dusk on the Switch over Thanksgiving, and I decided, this would be really great playing on a larger screen since it's kind of retro graphics. So I'll be playing that on PC as well. And Tao, you're planning on playing Halo Infinite on the Series X and on PC as well. Next week, it's actually going to be our Game Superlative show. The schedule's all kinds of wonky because we're going to be basically off for 2, maybe 3 weeks because of the way the Thursday night schedule would have fallen over the holidays, and some of us are going to be out of town in different weeks. So we'll be back next week to close out the year with the 5th Game Superlative Awards discussion. So all 4 co-hosts will be on, and we'll be going through most of the new games that we played this year and talking about where they fall in kind of our own scale. So we do game superlatives. We don't do a game of the year. So we'll be putting games that we've played into categories like most likely to play when you were sick, most likely to be the game for a family game night, and categories such as that. So kind of think about like your high school superlatives, in terms of most likely to succeed, funniest student, things like that is one of the types of categories that we have. So Swiss will be chairing that discussion. I wish him the best. I hope he forgives me for him getting the random number call for that. That is always a not insignificant workload to corral that whole discussion, both in terms of prep and actually in runtime. So it's his time. It's his turn in the barrel, and the rest of us will be on to be shouting from the peanut gallery like the 2 old men on the Muppets. And then we'll be back I can't remember what day that falls on, but January, I don't know, 5th, 6th, or 7th or whatever, the first Thursday of the new year, to pick up the start of our. It's actually just the second half of our 5th year of broadcasting. So we will see you guys then. Tao, anything else to add?
Nope, I'm good.
All right.
Another great show.
Well, thanks so much for joining us tonight. We will see you guys then. Until then, take care of yourselves. Stay safe out there. Play the games that you like, and come here to talk about the games that you love. Until next time, good night, good luck, and good gaming. That's going to do it for us. We're out of here.